Okay, these are my this is my first row of capacitors, and now, as you can see here, I have connected the other legs of the capacitors to a common bus bar. Since I had some pieces of aluminium laying around, I drilled them. They already had some older holes drilled in them from my other projects, but I drilled holes in them especially for these terminals to uh, connect at the right position. And now I've placed uh, nuts on the screws, and I don't know if you can see it very well, but my poor capacitors are a bit bent and abused, because as I try to gently uh, snug this piece of aluminum underneath the capacitor's legs and terminals, which were very stiff, I had to bend the capacitors so that that this aluminum bar can fit with the bolts already passed through its holes. So when you get to these kind of tiny capacitors, which are very sensitive, take care so you don't make this error like I did. And when you crimp the terminals on the capacitor's legs, crimp them to a little bit of wire like here, so you can have much more flexibility when you want to mount something. I did it like this, leaving uh, no room for play, making everything as short as possible, because I didn't want to add too much resistance to the circuit. But it seems that I have mistaken only a bit, but no worries. Now I'm mounting this common bus bar or rail, and then I will move on to the next ones. I have 4 common bus bars in total. Here are my other three rows of capacitors assembled, and they each have one common bus bar. These are my 1 microfarad capacitors. As you can see, I have joined them together. Let me show you how. I have this cable bed, it's how they call it in my language. It's like a cover for the cables which go on the walls of buildings. They pass, I don't know, internet cables, generally telecommunications and power cables for appliances inside the building. And I have fastened the capacitors, which each have a 8mm thread on their end, and I have fastened them with 8mm metric nut, and so they sit here nice and tight and don't wiggle and wobble around as I transport my capacitor decade box. These are my 10 microfarad capacitors, and these baby boys are my 100 microfarad capacitors. Each row contains 10 capacitors. What I have to do now is secure them and assemble them and secure them to the knife switches connections, and then place the lid of the capacitance decade box onto it, and then, well, not until I make all the wiring between the rows, and I have to drill some holes here, or I don't know where. I still have to decide where. Drill some holes and lay out some terminals, which I will make from some brass nuts and bolts, which I bought from the hardware store, as you USA guys call it. And these two will come here and here, and they will be like the two terminals of one huge capacitor, which is adjustable, of course. And I still have to decide if it will only be a capacitance decade box, or will I add the two motor start capacitors, which I bought for the RV, for my RV project. And also if I will embed in this box a braking resistor for the RV as well. I might as well do it because I made it a bit larger so I can fit other parts in it, and in my opinion, if it's more versatile, then it's a better tool. So I will do what I said, which is assemble the capacitors into the capacitance decade box and then move on.